So, we teach you guys how to create what we call smart estimates. It's very different than what you're doing right now in Xactimate. All right? So, how many of you guys went to Jim Johnson's class yesterday? What'd y'all think? Wasn't that a great class? Jim says don't use Xactimate. If you have 5 trades, write up 5 line items. He's right. Roofing, $30,000. Gutter, $1,500. Paint, $2,500. Right? If you have 5 trades, you write up 5 line items, total it up, here's the sales tax, boom, $37,800. Whatever. Right? And if you're going to do that, then God bless you. Awesome. Are you going to have a tough time selling it to the adjuster because they speak Xactimate? You are, but if you have what it takes to do it that way, then I say do it that way. But if you don't want to have this big fight on your hands with the adjuster saying, I don't understand this, where's the line items, right? Because they speak Martian. So how about we speak their language? The only reason I say that we should use Xactimate is because you can get the same results as the 5 line items, or better, by speaking their language. So I was in Israel last week. I was there for 2 weeks. I highly recommend that you go. And so there's a lot of people that speak English there, but there's a lot of people that don't. And what do they speak? Hebrew and Arabic. So guess what I'm going to learn how to do? Because I'm going back, this is my 4th trip. I'll be going back every year. So what am I going to learn how to do? Speak Hebrew and Arabic, which at 57 years old, it's a lot more difficult than if I were 17 or 7. You know, they learn real quick, don't they? So anyway, because I'm going to learn how to speak the language, because that's what they speak. I mean, should our crew members know how to speak English? Yes. They're in Texas. I was going to say America, but they're in Texas, right? And so which one are you going to do? 5 line items for $30,000 or 65 line item Xactimate estimate for $30,000 that's speaking the adjuster's language? That's a decision you have to make for yourself. And God bless you if you're going to do the 5 line items. I think that everyone should do that. But if you're not going to do that, then you need to include all 65 line items and not 40, which is what the adjuster has on his, or 35. So human nature being what it is, which one is the adjuster more likely to agree to? Human nature being what it is. So if we're in sales, which everyone in here is, the owners are in sales, right? Somebody's selling somebody in an adjuster meeting. Somebody's selling somebody. Either you're selling them or they're selling you. So you're the salesman. They're not salesmen. They're like clerks. They used to be construction experts 15, 20, 30 years ago, but they're not anymore, are they? They don't know, these college kids don't know a ceiling joist from a rafter. I mean, they don't. And they don't want them to. Because the more you know, the more you're likely to do what? Be accurate in your estimate. And they want them to do what they're told.
Most of former Uber drivers.
There you go. So it's called a familiarity bias. Human nature is that we like things that we're familiar with, and things that we're unfamiliar with makes us uncomfortable, doesn't it? That's human nature. So if people are writing estimates that they're unfamiliar with, they're like, wait a second, I don't understand this. So that's the reason why if you learn how to leverage the power of Xactimate, it can be very effective. So what a smart estimate is, it's an estimate that you create that leaves not a single line item off. Every single legitimate and reasonable line item is on the estimate, and we put nothing on there that's not legitimate and reasonable. Because if you do, what does that do to your credibility? Now, if you can explain every single line item using facts and evidence, that's the reason why we win, is because the facts and evidence are on whose side? Ours. So as long as you're using facts and evidence to back up every single line item, then it's a legitimate, valid estimate, isn't it? And you can justify it to the cows come home. Now you can tell I'm from Texas. Cows come home. So, what is Xactimate and how is it designed to be used? It is a component-based line item estimating platform. What that means is when you put in, remove and replace 30-year laminate shingles, or they don't call it that anymore, they call it lightweight laminate shingles, right? The old 30-year, which used to be the old 25-year, for you older guys in here. When you put that on there, what's included in that line item to install shingles, install roofing? 3 things.
The dump, the felt.
The shingles, not the dump. The dump is on the remove, yeah. The shingles, labor, fasteners. Is drip edge or valley metal included? Starter, hip and ridge? No, it includes 3 things. I mean, right there in the line item description, it says what's included. Right? So anything not included on that is what? Not in there. So we have to include all those other things. And there's a bunch of other things that you're doing that you're not charging for. And that means you're leaving actually a ton of money on the table because you're not charging for these things. So we're going to go over some of those things this morning so we get these juices flowing and thinking and everything. You're going, you know what? He's right. I'm doing all this stuff and I'm not charging for it. Does the insurance company do anything that they don't charge for? So, you know, oh wait, it's the cost of doing business. Everything is the cost of doing business. What a foolish statement. Have you heard that before? It's just the cost. We're not going to pay for it. That's the cost of doing business. Isn't overhead the cost of doing business? Are they charging for the cost? Are they doing anything for free? One thing. Name me one thing they're doing for free. No?
They'll give you an estimate.
It's built into your premium. I assure you, the premium that they're charging for your insurance policy, it's built in. So it's a component-based line item estimating platform. And if you don't use it like that, then you're not using it correctly. And 95% of contractors don't. Wow, what a bold statement. Let's see. So component-based line item estimate is estimate that accounts for and includes every single component or every work that you do that's included in the project, leaving absolutely nothing off. So horse trading. My business partner Tony's been doing this for 45 years. How many guys in here younger than 45 years old? He started doing this before you were born. He's from West Texas. He's got this New Jersey accent. Anybody here ever talk to Tony? A couple of you guys? Yeah. Anyway, he does have a New Jersey. No, he does not. He has a West Texas. And he talks slow. It's really funny because when he gets with these lawyers and you can tell that they're getting annoyed by how slow he talks, he slows down. And he gets them off their game, and next thing they know, he slit their throat, and they don't even know what happened. He's been doing this a while. So he tells this story that if you're going to sell a horse, and you want $500 for it, how much are you going to ask for the horse? $750, $1,000. If you ask $500 for a horse, you want $500 for, then there's nowhere to go but down, right? I mean, this is negotiating 101, because the buyer's going to be offering what? $250 or something, right? Same thing with buying a home. Same thing buying a car. Same thing with an insurance claim. How is this any different? It's a financial negotiation. Oop, I said the N word. Yes, it's a financial negotiation for the consumer. Okay? So where's the line that you step over into that UPPA, acting as a public adjuster thing? It's real simple. Write this down. You can't talk about coverage. What is coverage? Who owes for what? That's it. That's it. You can't talk about who, but you owe for the fence. You can't say that. That's really none of your business, is it? If the fence is damaged, what's the reasonable method of repair and how much is it going to cost? So are you an expert in insurance? Then stop saying that you're an insurance claims specialist and this nonsense stuff that we say. What are you an expert in? Construction. Then be that. Be that. Don't pretend you're an expert in insurance when you're not. You're an expert in construction. They didn't hire you to negotiate their claim. They hired you to do what? The work, to put their home back together. So be an expert in that. So, if you're going to purchase a home, if the asking price is $235,000, what are you going to offer? Let's say you're going to buy the house across the street. Are you going to offer $235,000? No, only a simpleton would do that, right? What are you going to offer? Less, maybe $175,000, maybe $200,000, but not $235,000. So that the fair market value of the home is $200,000. Are they asking $200,000? No, they're smarter than that. They're asking $235,000 because they want $200,000. Does this make sense? Sure, we understand this. Same thing with a car. If the fair market value of a truck is $60,000, that's not much of a truck anymore, is it? So, I want to get a Raptor. You can't get a Raptor for $60,000. Nope. In fact, it's like $5,000 to $10,000 over sticker. Man, now that's supply and demand now, isn't it? Crazy. That's why I'm not driving one yet, because I'm not into that yet. All right. So let's say the fair market value of the truck is $60,000. So sticker price is $70,000, $75,000. And what are you going to offer? You're going to go in and offer $60,000 if it's worth $60,000? No, of course not. You're going to offer $50,000. Isn't that how financial negotiations work? I mean, we understand these things, right? How is an insurance claim any different? So let's say that you have a job that has a value of $20,000 loss. When I say $20,000, so there's sufficient profit built in so that you make a 40% gross profit. If you're not making a 40% gross on these jobs, then guess what? You don't have a business, you have a job. You're not running a business, you have a job. A job with a bunch of liability. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. If you're not making enough so that you can grow your business, then you don't have a business. Do we? So we have to make at least a 40% gross margin. So let's say that to make a 40% gross margin on a given loss, Mrs. Jones's job, you have to make $20,000. How much are you writing the estimate for? $20,000. And there's nowhere for you to go but down. Have you thought about that? Wow. Is that smart? So the carrier's initial offer to settle the claim, that's what it is. Just like my offer to buy the house or my offer to buy the car, it's an initial offer to settle the claim. If y'all read my book, you understand these things, right? Is anyone obligated to take someone's initial offer in a financial, hey Adam, in anyone's, in a financial negotiation? No. The carrier's like, are you stupid enough to take $10,000? If you are, then awesome. Then we'll go right down the road. And 80-90% of the time, consumers do. Wow. What a great deal for them. Can you even do it for this? I mean, we have Allstate deals that they're making offers to settle that are lower than your actual raw cost to do the roof. Have you seen that? Anybody seen those? Is that insane? All right. So in a smart estimate, where do we start off with? If we're horse trading, you don't start out at 20, you start out at 25 to 30. Does that mean we put nonsense in the estimate to build it up there? No, because what did we predicate this on earlier? That every single line item is, what are the two words? Legitimate and reasonable. Memorize, write those two words down. You're going to use those over and over and over again when you're talking with adjusters. Legitimate and reasonable. Legitimate and reasonable. Make that part of your vernacular that you use all the time when you're talking with adjusters. So how do you write a $30,000 estimate on a job like this? Good question. So that everything is legitimate and reasonable. How does the carrier write a $10,000 estimate for $20,000 worth of work? They leave a bunch of line items off, don't they? Unless they're referencing some MRP, y'all know what the MRP are, right? Yeah. Unless they're referencing MRP pricing or something like that, then price typically isn't the issue. It's scope. They're leaving a ton of line items off, aren't they? So we properly utilize the tool. Realize that Xactimate is just a tool, like a hammer, right? By the way, it's your tool, you're not its tool.
It ain't scripture.
Yeah, that's right. This is my son, Adam. He runs my company, Estimates Made Easy. He's going to share some things with you. He's going to teach you how adjusters think and what motivates them and these sorts of things. Adam has extensive background in adjusting claims as well. And he got fed up too, and he doesn't adjust claims anymore either because he has a conscience. So we create a separate line item for every single component that will be installed, including all labor and all expenses. You're leaving a ton of stuff off without realizing it. That's how you build it up. And if you write an estimate, if you need to be at 20, and you write one for 25 and they take 5,000 off, where are you at? Right where you right where you need to be for your business to be sustainable and you can grow your business. It's a financial negotiation, right? So how do we do this? I'm beating a horse, aren't I? Every single line item has to be legitimate and reasonable, or you're going to lose credibility. So, you have to explain and justify every single line item using facts and evidence. And what's the gold standard when it comes to facts and evidence? Credible, objective, third-party source material. For example, let's say you're justifying the inclusion of general contractors' overhead and profit on an estimate. And they say that the general contractor's overhead and profit is built into the line items. Let's say that they say that. So what is some credible, objective, third-party source material that validates that you're correct and they're not? Anyone?
Xactimate white paper.
The Xactimate white paper on general contractor's overhead and profit. It's not that Steve says this. General says that it's not built in. Did y'all know that? That Xactimate says that the roofer's general contractor's overhead and that overhead and profit is included in the roofing price, but the general contractor's overhead and profit. They want to confuse people about the two different O&Ps. What is overhead and profit? What is overhead?
Advertising.
That's right. It's all your expenses as a business, whether you get Mrs. Jones' job or not. Your office, your trucks, your insurance, your staff, all those things. Whether you get the Jones job or not, those expenses keep coming in every month, every year, whatever. Right? That's your general overhead. Specific overhead is overhead that you incur because you got the Jones job. But that's not part of overhead and profit. That's not part of general overhead, that's specific overhead. By the way, has anyone ever read this book? Let me see your hands, if you have.
I just got it in my truck.
You just got it? Oh man, you have got to get this book. It's not cheap, it's like 75 bucks. Best 75 bucks you'll ever spend. Markup and Profit by Michael C. Stone. All right, so he says in here, there's 5 reasons why every business, 6 reasons why every restoration contracting business is going to fail. In 10 years, 95% fail. 10 years, 95% fail. Why? Reason number 1, not charging enough for their work. That's what we're talking about here today, aren't we? Number 2, the failure to use or the improper use of change work orders. You're not using a change order. Failure to use or improper use of legal contracts. Too many employees for the volume of work being produced. Your overhead is too high. Improper payment schedules on their contracts and lack of profitable sales. Lack of profitable sales. You're making a bunch of sales, but you're not making no profit. You're giving the work away. Those are the top 6 reasons. Anyone here guilty as charged? Get this book. So who here knows the difference between a markup and a margin? A few hands? Most contractors don't. If you don't spend $75 to get this book, then you have no one to blame but yourself if you're one of the 95%. Yes, Adam?
It's on Amazon right now for $41.
For how much?
It's on Amazon for $41.
$41. Wow, that's better than what I paid $75. I bought it from Stone, but yeah, there you go. $41. If you can't spend $41 to learn how to accurately price your work, then I can't help you. No one can help you. I highly recommend this book, and I'm making $5-10 a copy. No, I'm not. I'm not making nothing. I just want you guys to be profitable, right? So, by the way, is this a credible source? Is Michael Stone making an extra dollar no matter what you price your work at? No. He's a credible, objective, third-party source. Craftsman Books. Y'all heard of Craftsman Books, right? Very credible source to the insurance industry. So here's your credible, objective, third-party source material. So let me give you an example of some things that you're not putting on your estimates and you're leaving money on the table. So I was doing an appraisal. Y'all know what that is? Like alternative dispute resolution stuff? We do a bunch of those. I was doing an appraisal with a public adjuster here in town, and I was working for the carrier on this particular appraisal. And the guy had on there remove felt. And I said, well, remove felt is included in the R&R shingle price. And he goes, no, it's not. I said, well, there's remove shingles by themselves and remove shingles and felt. And the one that says remove shingles and felt is paying for remove felt. He goes, go back and check the price. They're exactly the same. I said, they can't be the same because one of them is remove shingles and felt and one of them is remove shingles. So the price has to be different. Guess what? He was right. It's the exact same price. How is it possible that one line item says remove shingles is this price, another one says remove shingles and felt, and it's the exact same price? How is that possible? They're not paying for the remove felt. Why? Because they believe that when you tear the shingles off, what happens? The felt comes with it. Is that true? They don't know what they're talking about because they're not construction experts. They're accountants. They're bean counters at Xactimate. They don't know what they're talking about. They believe it comes off. But what have we not accounted for? The additional labor to take off the felt, and what else? A bigger can to contain the felt. I mean, think for a second, the pallet of felt sitting on the driveway, right? But it's not all tight in rolls anymore, is it? So how much bigger can you're going to have to carry the felt? And plus, what else are they not accounting for? The dump fee. Is it going to cost more at the dump to dump shingles and felt as opposed to just shingles? Duh. The weight of the felt sitting there on the pallet, right? They're not accounting for those things. So what are we going to put on our estimates? Remove felt. Remove roofing felt. Are you putting that on your estimate now? A separate line item for remove felt.
Yes.
You're doing that for free if you're not. Did you make a conscious decision to remove the felt, the labor, the bigger can, and paying for the dump fee? Did you make a conscious decision to do that for free? Nope, never occurred to you, but you're doing it for free, aren't you? So what are we going to price that at? I don't know. What's a reasonable price? You're a contractor, you tell me. You're the contractor. Insurance companies don't set the price. Who sets the price? The market and you. So you decide what a fair price is. Does this make sense? So in appraisal, so what you do is when you deal with a field adjuster and they can't be reasoned with, you go up the ladder of authority in the claims department trying to find someone who can be reasoned with. If no one can be reasoned with, what do you do then? You circumvent the claims department and go to appraisal. You circumvent the claims department, the obstructionist. All right? So let me tell you what realistic expectations are. So let's say that you're at 20,000, the carrier's at 10. There's a $10,000 spread, right? So you can reasonably expect in appraisal to get somewhere between 65 to 85% of the spread. Win that in appraisal. That's what you can reasonably expect. You're not going to get 100%. All right? In fact, I could probably count on one hand the number of times I've got 100%. And John Burt we were doing an appraisal once before, I got 100%. Do you remember that one? That Victorian house? Yep. So around 75% of the amount in dispute, so if the amount in dispute is $10,000, you can reasonably expect how much in appraisal? $7,500 of the $10,000, right? All right. Again, legitimate damage, reasonable method of repair. All right. So the carrier's piecemeal offer on this loss is $10,000. The minimum threshold, remember we talked about this, so you can make a 40% gross profit, so you can grow your business, is at 20. So if you make your estimate at 20, the spread is 10,000. So that's the dispute, 10,000, right? The difference between their $10,000 offer and you're at 20. 75% of that is $7,500. So you're getting $17,500 on a $20,000 loss. Did you make your 40% margin? No. Why? Because your estimate was for this. There's nowhere for you to go but down. Does this make sense? However, if the carrier's piecemeal offer is $10,000 and your minimum threshold is 20, and you write an estimate for 27, then what's the dispute? Not 10,000, but 17,500. So you can reasonably expect 75% of that, or 12,500, for the $17,500 dispute. $17,000 spread. Now you made $22,750 on a $20,000 loss. How you doing? So what if we don't make $27,550? What if we make 20, which is our number we wanted to hit to be able to run a sustainable business and grow the business? Is that a fair deal? Yes, you have to make a 40% gross profit in this industry to grow your business. Otherwise, you have a job with a bunch of liability. So, let me read this. I don't know if you probably don't even use this paragraph anymore, but here, so this is the paragraph that I recommend that you put at the beginning of every one of your SMART estimates. So let me read it. All rights reserved, 2016 LP Loss Consulting. Why do we put a copyright on our estimates? No one can forward this estimate to anyone else or make a copy without our written permission, or they've just violated copyright law. Wow. Could that be useful? Yes, it could. So if you don't give them permission to forward it over to someone else, they can't. Otherwise, they're doing what? Violating copyright law. Is that a good idea? It's not a bad idea. We have written this estimate based on legitimate damage that we observed and that we consider to be a reasonable method of repair. We believe that every single line item contained in this document is legitimate and reasonable, and some are even required by code. If you determine that any line item in here is illegitimate or unreasonable, let us know how you drew your conclusion. We may very well agree with you. An answer of "we do not cover that" or some equivalent answer is not acceptable to us or our client. Please explain how you arrived at your conclusion that it is either illegitimate or unreasonable. I look forward to arriving at a fair and equitable scope of damages agreement with you. Thank you for your advance for your time, blah, 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 blah. How many times did I say legitimate and reasonable in that paragraph? 4 times.
Question.
Yes?
So it does mean it's saying that we do not cover that. Is that even coming close to?
No. Their answer of "we do not cover that," or "we don't include that," is not an acceptable answer because you're not answering how you arrived at your conclusion. So if you're saying, let's say that they say we don't cover drip edge. That's a common thing, right? Or we don't pay for drip edge along the eave. We'll pay it up the rake, but not the eave. You've heard that? Okay. So what do? We don't make statements, we ask questions. So you're not saying that the drip edge is illegitimate or unreasonable then. You ask that question. So you're not saying the drip edge is illegitimate or unreasonable then. They aren't saying it's illegitimate or unreasonable, are they? Or if they are, what are you going to ask? How did you arrive at that conclusion? My favorite question, write this down. Why do you say that? Essentially, when I say, why do you say that? I'm saying put up or shut up. Except I'm not saying it like that because that's a little in your face, right? I don't want to say put up or shut up. What do I say? Why do you say that? You know what I really like saying? I like saying this. I say, you know what? You could be right and I could be wrong. Anybody here ever been wrong before? Let me see your hands. Oh, I think that's all of us. So you could be right, I could be wrong. I don't think I'm wrong, but I could be. So help me understand how you arrived at your conclusion. It's brilliant to say that. First of all, you're humbling yourself and you're saying that I'm not saying I'm 100% right about everything. And when you humble yourself, what does that give permission for the other person to do now? Humble themselves. This is human nature. If you say, you know what, I'm wrong, and the other guy goes, or your wife goes, yeah, me too. I mean, if you say that you're wrong first, now it's okay for them to say that they're wrong, isn't it? Or whatever. If you humble yourself and say, I could be wrong, I don't think so, but I could be, help me understand your position, then what have you done? You've taken down some of the barrier between you and them, right? Very smart thing to do. Remove laminate shingles without felt. Remove felt 90 pound. And then I have this little statement under there. Xactimate does not provide a line item for the removal of roofing felt. Therefore, we have created this line item to account for this function. We not only have to account for the labor required to tear off the old felt, but also a dumpster large enough to accommodate this additional waste material and the fee necessary to legally dispose of the old material in a legal landfill. If you are told that roofing felt is easily removed when shingles are torn off, this is misinformation. I'll be happy to provide you with a video of a roof tear-off disputing this misinformation. What have we just provided after that line item? That they're not expecting to remove felt, are they? They're not expecting that line item. So what have we done? We've added a paragraph that does what? That explains and justifies the inclusion of this line item using facts and evidence. Do you see what we've done? We're not saying you should include it because I say so. We've actually provided facts and evidence that explain and justify that line item's inclusion. Does that make sense? Remove additional layer of shingles. Nope. Have a nice trip. Purpose and function of this line item. 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 So every line item that they're leaving off, and you know which ones they leave off, don't you? Right? Don't purpose and function the ones that they're including. That's not necessary. You've already agreed with those line items. It's the ones that they're omitting that you want the purpose and function. And so you're explaining the purpose and function, explaining the inclusion, and justifying that line item's inclusion. That's what a smart estimate is. It's not just saying, here's 65 line items, pay me. It's explaining and justifying the line items that they don't have on theirs. So we're actually, it works like this. As an adjuster, right? What I don't want is I don't want to get in trouble and I don't want to have a bunch of my estimates kicked back. So who is the gatekeeper at the insurance company that the files either go through or they get kicked back? What's that guy's name? The file examiner. The file examiner is the one who examines the files. And he either says, okay, it goes through, or it gets kicked back. Adjusters don't want things to get kicked back because then they have to do what? A bunch of extra work that they're not getting paid for. right? They don't want the kickback. So they want the file examiner to be able to have it go through, right? So as an adjuster, you have to be able to do what? Two things. Explain and justify the inclusion of that line item. So what are we doing here? We're doing their work for them. Is that okay? Yes. Yes. Our job as contractors isn't to frustrate the adjuster. Our job is to do what? Make it easy for them to say yes. Duh. Human nature. So if we make it easy for them to say yes, because we give them the ammo necessary to be able to get it through the file examiner, then what are the chances of them saying yes to your line items? Far greater. Does this make sense? All right.